Hi, everybody. So today I have my new friend Lisa with me, and she's going to ask me some questions, and we're going to talk about what's going on in the world today. And Lisa and I met in Morocco. So she's one of the reasons that I went to Morocco, along with Abby and Anya and Antonia. So it was really important, the meeting of all these minds together, and then the activation of all these beautiful beings that are becoming healers. So, anyway, I just wanted to introduce Lisa, and we're going to talk about the world a little bit.
Great. Thanks, honey.
Yeah,
Nice to see you again. And thanks for
nice to
having me
see
on.
you. Yeah,
Hi, I'm Lisa Rhodes. Actually, work on a channel that's called Question the Narrative. And Honey and I had an
I'll put
amazing
that below.
opportunity to meet each other in Morocco at the Mark Atwood retreat, which was such a special time. So it was so many great experiences there. And thanks so much. And
Yeah,
boy, we started out by I was listening to you, honey, and sort of the first thing that really took me by surprise and was just beautifully articulated was how you could see that there were three types of star seeds right now in the world today. And maybe we'll start there. You said it was the warriors, the healers, and the builders. And maybe you could start by going through what each of those are, what that means, and why that was such an important thing to frame it that way.
yeah. So it actually comes from Dolores Cannon, and I totally agree with her with this. So the warriors are the ones that, so first, before any of those came in, came the scouts. So the scouts are like mostly like 80, 90 years old, and they came in just like an Army scout to see what in the world is going on here. Can we send other people? So it's just like you would have a scout that goes out before the regiment, goes into a war.
Military intel,
Yeah.
yeah.
So the scouts have been here, and some of us have been lucky enough to be born into a family where the scout is a parent. But the
Hmm.
warriors are the ones who have been really on the forefront of information and not putting up with stuff and being a real warrior for others. So, if you want to put it in easy age group terms, the warriors are like in their 60s and 70s right now.
Hmm.
But then the healers are in their 50s, early 60s, and maybe late 40s. So the
Hmm.
healers are kind of in that group. And the healers are up next. So right now we've had a lot of really intense truth that's come out. And that's the warriors that have released that truth to us and done the hard, icky work, right? So now it's time to heal the world up. And the healers, it's their turn to take over. And next, it will be the builders. And the builders are the ones who are going to build the new consciousness. So they're going to basically build the world. So if you think about it, they're the ones who are going to create the new society, and the healers are going to pad the way for them. But there's also bridges in between. So you have people that are warriors and healers, and then you have people that are also healers and builders. So the builders, they could be like just being born right now, but the bridges are like probably like 20 to 35 years
Okay.
old. And then there's bridges in between the warriors and the healers as well. So, and all of us can have aspects of all of it, but it's just the role of where we came in. We choose our birth time, we choose our birth date, and we do that so that we have a certain personality that can carry us through with our mission. So
So all of it
that's,
works
yeah,
together, yeah.
that's kind of how I see all those groups.
Yeah, I thought that was really beautifully said because one of the things you mentioned at your seminar is that sometimes the healers and the builders, mostly the builders, don't need to know all the information that the warriors do. And
Right.
those of us who have been at the early stage trying to get that information out want to tell everybody everything. And I thought that was so important that, okay, so maybe not everybody needs to have all of that information because their role is different.
Mm-hmm.
And that
Yeah.
was a really, really insightful comment that I got from you. So I love that. So going back to the warriors and the healers and this transition, it sounds like that's where we are right now in this process. We're
Mm-hmm.
trying to transition from warrior to healer.
Right.
How's that going to happen? What do you see are the mechanics of that transition?
Well, the mechanics are that as the whole unfolding of all the disclosure happens, as the white hats reveal what's been happening, then we'll be able to help people heal. And hopefully we'll have time to really help as much as possible before the solar flash actually happens, which I've been getting for years, that it's going to be at the end of March of 2023. So end of March, early April, but I think end of March mainly.
Okay.
And that is a biblical event. So it's not movable. And it's basically all light codes coming in, changing the body, changing the consciousness, giving you so much information. And if people are in a better space or a better mindset when that happens, they're going to do better through that process. So we've been lots of meditations and help for the white hats. And, you know, these people have gone through so much trauma themselves. So any love that you can send to the white hats, any appreciation that you can send out through the ether to them is really good. It really helps. But like, I check up on them like every day. How they doing?
So let's say
okay.
Yeah, what do you see today? How are they doing today? Did they have a Thanksgiving?
They're doing really good. I feel like they're enthusiastic at this point. They're, you know, they have their projects that they're unrolling, and I don't feel like anything's really in the way right now, which there was a lot of stuff in the way. So it's really, really helped to have not just like, you know, my group of people, but when we were at the retreat, we had everybody help. And that was amazing because it was so powerful. Like, think about all the people just concentrating on giving them love and making sure that they're okay, because we're white hats too. So we're here to help as well. And it's okay to contribute in whatever way that you can, even if it's just sending love and energy.
Right. That was a really powerful part of us all being together at this retreat, was sort of getting together and saying, okay, here we are. We're in this position right now. Humanity is here. We have the white hats doing this. And in some ways, we trust and have faith in the white hats, like to take care of us or to help us, but we also need to participate. And these are some of the ways that we participate in supporting them energetically. Honey, maybe is there any kind of like meditation or process that you would suggest for people as we're here on our own, or groups of people that get together that could help with this?
I would just take 60 seconds every day and just imagine that their road is clear, that they don't have any obstacles, that they're doing well, that they know that they're loved, that they know that we appreciate them, and just give them the love that they deserve, because they've been through like the ringer.
Yeah.
So just give them that appreciation, and it will translate to them, and it'll help them do their job.
That's really beautiful. And it just shows you the power that we all have coming together with that, which is really good. Do you see anything else right now about where we are in this stage of the process? Any other new information?
It's really good. Like, there's so much information out there that's coming out, and it's coming out from all different angles, like all different parts of the issues. that are coming, forward. So with like Yay, which Kanye West.
Yay, Kanye,
yeah.
right?
There's that going on. There's people that are getting deposed or put on the stand that are like Mr. starts with an F, that nobody likes. He's very short and like a little troll. So, those people are getting their comeuppance right now. And it's all part of the movie. It's all part of a play. But for people who haven't known about it, like, it's a shocker to them. And they're still like, if you look at somebody who's been asleep this whole time, they're still like this, oh no, I don't want to see. And it's really, going to be shocking to them, but hopefully they'll see one thing at a time and they'll be able to assimilate it. But that's what the healers are here for, is to help them heal from the trauma that they're about to experience. Because they made some really ugly decisions.
Well, that's really interesting too, because all of us who are here and involved in this process, we've had all of this time for it to unfold for us. And we've had those aha moments of like, what? Nothing is what it thinks it could be.
Yeah.
So how much time do you think people will need once the real true disclosure comes out in order to make it through this solar flash?
Well, it's going to be like a death in the family. So, and this is before the solar flash. I hope they get that time before the solar flash. So I'm hoping they get at least a good 2.5 months. I'm hoping that most of the stuff is out by the end of December. That's my wish. So that they can start in January with their mourning process and basically go through the stages of grief of letting go of all this stuff. And that in March, by the time, early March comes along, that they can start to heal a little bit and not be so angry, because there's going to be a lot of anger there.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying, like how much time it's going to take time. And those of us who are healers, any thoughts then about what the healers will need to do, other than, first of all, not tell everybody right away, I told you so, or this is what any kind of guidance you think that we can give people as we help our fellow brothers and sisters through this process?
I think just telling them they can absorb as much as they can handle, but not to overdo it, because they will be able to learn more and more about this as time goes on, and only take in as much as they can stand. They don't need to learn everything all at once.
Yeah.
So basically not, it's going to be fixed either way. They don't have to know everything. They just need to be kind of open-hearted to learning new things, but not overwhelming themselves, because they'll learn more of it after the solar flash. Like, we're going to learn about the real history. We're going to learn, like, there's going to be so much that they have to learn. But everything is really going to turn and become more and more beautiful if they let it.
Yeah. And and that's the whole thing. Is so in a way, you're saying, keep the vibration high and guide, just gently guide, and realize they don't have to know all of everything. They just have to know that there's a big transition happening. It is about spiritual ascension, and it's about, we have a positive thing that's happening, and the world is moving in a very good direction. And
and just let them know this has been going on for 1,000 years plus, like, it's 1,000 years that it's been really ugly, but it was ugly before that too. There was lots of ugliness, but they can learn it over time. They don't have to learn about it all at once.
Everything, which is very exciting. It is just exciting, and I think I love the energy. Like, I just see your smile when it comes in, which is one of the things I love so much about you. This is where we are. It's beautiful. Like, every time we talk about these things, the world is completely not what we said. Financial, government, medical, And like
Geographical.
geographical. That's the really exciting thing. My daughter will be
Yeah.
happy to know that because she doesn't understand geography at all. So
Right.
we love that conversation. She's like, honey, it doesn't matter now. You're right. It's no one's gonna know. But like this is exciting. And every time they say, oh, something isn't working and the world isn't working, I'm like, that's great news. Because what's on the other side is so much better. And they look at you like, I don't know what she's having, but I'll have one of those too, right?
Yeah. It gives them
It's
something to look
exciting.
forward to. I
Yeah.
mean, the society is going to be really good and really conducive to the human person in the future.
Right.
So it's not going to be all about like monetary slavery, which is what we've been going through.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
let's go into that point. Let's talk about the financial world and
Sure.
how the money system has enslaved us through the
Hmm.
central banking model for for all that we can remember throughout the supposed history that we've had. So we're in for some big changes, and we're seeing these big changes in the world, such as the economies of every country. So let's start with the US, look like they're nothing like they were before. You've got a
Yeah.
lot of layoffs coming up. You've got banking systems talking about there. What do you see are the key things that are happening right now in the financial system?
Well, I don't see big corporations surviving much longer. I see everything coming back to the local level. And I see people basically banding together and doing things like with food. There's tons of technology that will be released. People are not going to have to be working so hard. When they do work, it's going to be all about let's do what's good for the collective. Let's, invent something, or let's go and, I don't know, help with the community garden or whatever. There's going to be a transition period where it's a little more rocky,
Yeah.
but money's not going to be as important either. Everybody will have a lot more money, but then it's not going to be as big of a deal to have money either. Because,
So
yeah,
are you going to need money to eat? You need money to have a home. Is that what you need money for in the
I
new?
feel like homes are going to become very inexpensive. And I feel like everybody will have a home. So the main thing that happens is everybody has a home, everybody has transportation, and everybody has food. The food thing, I think people are going to want to start growing their own or getting it at the local level. There's a lot of things about food that have been really heinous going on. So lots of toxic food, poisoned food. So I
Mhm.
don't think people are going to put up with that. And they're going to want to grow their own food or do some kind of co-op or
Right.
whatever. I think that's going to be one of the biggest things that is more manual labor that
Mm-hmm.
people want to do so that they can feed themselves and it is truly good for them.
Right. That's
So,
so important because that has been the foundation of the lack of health that we've
yeah.
all experienced in the world today. So, and also money becomes such a worry that
Mhm.
also caused a lot of ill health. So
Yeah.
what I'm hearing you say is that money is not a concern, that
Right.
we are fed, we are housed, we are clothed, which is wonderful. So you have this money system that we're in right now, the fiat currency, which is
Right.
a fictitious fiat. And because the word fiat means by
Right.
decree, I decree.
Yeah.
So I decree, the central banks say, I decree this paper is money, and therefore it is.
Mhm.
And then we all play around with that. There was nothing else other than that. Now, what do you see in that? It's going to be gold back or metal backed. It's going to have certain value.
Yeah.
Do governments have any role to play in the money system?
I think at first, yes. So I do think it'll go through the treasuries first. That's what I've been
Mhm.
getting. And all
Okay.
the metals will increase in value and all the money will be backed by metal. I think even copper will go up pretty massively in the
Mm-hmm.
future. Silver will be used for tech. So some of the new tech that's going to come out, I feel like silver will be used for that. Copper will be used for electricity because there's going to
Yes.
be all these patents out there. I mean, you can go to certain sites and just see like one person after another creating these little machines made with copper and magnets and stuff like that. And basically they're creating free electricity.
Mm.
So all of that will be happening. I've always gotten that our water would become atmospheric water. So,
Oh,
and there's a
okay.
guy, yeah, there's a guy making a machine who's getting pretty popular. I think he's in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
So the atmospheric water is what I've been getting will be our water of choice, the water that we drink, which I thought was really interesting. And
Very interesting. Yeah.
yeah, so that'll be like normal for us. And then I also get, you know how you have the transformer station with the electricity?
Yep.
I've been like, okay, so that's actually Tartarian tech, in my opinion. That's what Higher Self said. And so basically, they're manufacturing the electricity at those stations and they're sending it out. So I don't think we're going to get charged for electricity anymore. So a lot of stuff will just become free
Mm.
as they transition into better tech. But basically, the world is going to change a lot. I think that when money was invented, and I do think that came around the Jesus period time, which I always get was only like 500 years ago. So
Mm-hmm.
when I
Wow.
look into the hidden history and ask my higher self, like everything is totally different than what they've told us. But I think it was invented to continue slavery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it is a form of enslavement because everybody has to work for this money
Yeah.
that then have to be taxed upon this money, and that all of their decisions. So everybody you have a conversation with, if you talk about buying a house, if you talk about what things you want to do in your life, everything is based on money and it controls you. So you're right. It
Yeah.
enslaves your mind. I had a conversation, honey, with a very good friend of mine whose daughter works at one of the big banks. And I said, she goes, yeah, she's working really, really hard. And I said, wow, how do you feel about that? Do you want her to work that hard? She goes, well, absolutely. I really do. And I said, wow, I want just the opposite for my daughter. I want her to be responsible to work, which she is, but to not work so hard anymore and get out
Mm-hmm.
of that enslavement, which I think is the beautiful transition that we're going to be seeing in this world today.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
So,
don't really think anybody will work more than 20 hours a week. I think that'll be like max.
and so you think about that's such a massive transition. You're right.
Mhm.
We're not a slave to doing something and doing it for someone else and
Right.
having to be beholden upon them to say I can have this money so I can live my life. Wow. So how does that translate into what people will be doing? How will they live their lives with all of this freedom now?
Well, I think there's going to be a pretty like intense transformation, a transition. And
Mm-hmm.
I always get the window is going to like close in 2027. So between 2023 and 2027, we'll be transitioning into what I would say is more of the golden age. But the golden age I always get is 2030.
Mm.
So this whole decade is about transitioning and things changing and, basically how we adjust. And that you just got to get ready for change, basically, because society's going to change. The way we move around society is going to change. There's a lot of stuff that's intact underground, like trains and there's stuff that we're going to be using that we will inherit that has been hidden from us.
Mm. That's so exciting. I see that too. I've been visualizing the train system
Mm-hmm.
that gets you from the US to Europe in 3 hours. I
Yeah.
mean that's what I envision. And I say, I don't care about the airlines anymore because you see that model breaking because I know there's something better. And
Yeah.
that's what I mean, like all of this excitement because we're here to show that there's always something better and it's already existing, which is so exciting. But
Right.
let's go back to the money thing still. So, because I know everybody
Mhm.
has a lot of questions about
Oh
how
yeah.
are they going to go through this. So we're moving out of a system where money was controlled by a central banking model,
Hmm.
and that money was controlled by the governments. And you're saying
Right.
it's governments are going to still be involved in it. It's going to have some kind of precious metal backing.
Hmm.
Um, and this transition part, you're saying from 2023 to 2027, maybe 2030, we'll be using money.
Yeah.
And right now, so much of our energy is about money. How do we transition ourselves and to understand sort of what's a better approach? So if our homes, our food, all of these things are being taken care of, what role do you think money plays in this transition?
Fun.
Fun. Okay. Like what?
Like
Tell us.
travel. So I've been getting that, to get to the trains, you'll have to take a shuttle. So you're going to have to pay for the shuttle, but probably not the train itself, because I think the train is
Okay.
all like free energy, but they're
Mm.
extremely fast. But most of our money will be spent on, buying local wares or local food.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think it's going to be like a farmer's market, like smorgasbord, wherever you're at. But money in general will become less and less important. And there's all these people out there ready to do humanitarian projects, not to mention the military. All of that, I know that there's tons of programs ready to go.
Great.
Tons of
That's
programs. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
So there's things in place, and nobody's going to be left homeless or destitute anymore, because that's not humane.
No.
Yeah.
So so that's really interesting. So right now, money, there's there they say there's a scarcity of money. Well, we've printed money, we've shipped money, all of these things. It's kind of a hard thing for me to believe that there's a scarcity of money. It's
There.
just a who's in control of it.
Yeah.
How do you see, like right now, we've seen money flows from government to government, this idea of corruption, of how it ends up in hands that are not good. What's happening now, and how do we see that changing?
Well, I don't think that politicians will be in charge of anything anymore. So that's going to change a lot of the way, because a lot of the money that has flowed out has flowed back in. It's been a way to take money from the public and then put it into their own pocket. So that won't be going on. I don't think that there's going to be any money laundering going on anymore, because we'll have the quantum financial system. So everything will be seen as it goes through these different processes. So people are going to know.
Yeah.
They'll know right away. Oh, that
Mm.
person stole that money.
The transparency of the financial system will be nothing like what we have right now. So
Exactly.
they can't hide it. Well, you
Yeah.
mentioned you just started talking about the quantum financial system.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've talked about currency, the current fiat currency, which whether it be a dollar, a euro, a yen, a yuan. And then we also have this concept of these cryptocurrencies.
Yeah.
And crypto is quite complex because it could be a blockchain or it could be something that doesn't have any fundamentals underneath. So quantum financial system is intentional, right? To understand intention and transparency.
Mm-hmm.
Currency, the fiat currency would be backed by metals, precious metals. So it was sort of before going back to the times where fiat currency actually had a backing.
Yeah.
And then let's layer in this concept of crypto. What do you see the role of crypto playing in the quantum financial system?
I feel like it'll be the exchange between countries. Like they'll use that and it'll get backed by gold too, gold or silver, but not
Mm,
all the crypto is going to make it through this process.
mm-hmm, yeah.
There's a lot of crypto that's going to like
Mm,
basically crash and burn.
mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Well,
but
yeah.
yeah, some of it, will do really well. and could basically make millions of dollars for somebody that maybe invested a few $100s.
Mm-hmm.
But some of it, they will lose millions of dollars because they're invested in a crypto that has been really backed by yucky stuff, has been used for money laundering or, you know, heinous things that have happened with people that have been transported around the world. So I'm not going to say the word, but transported around the world against their will.
Right.
Yeah.
So once again, going back into the thing, crypto is a technology and the technology is neutral. It's just what the intention of it. You can use it for good. You can use it for bad.
Yeah.
So let's sort of play around with the idea. Are there any crypto programs? Because you can call it a cryptocurrency, which Bitcoin is on a blockchain, distributed ledger, and it is completely transparent, and it has a finite number of Bitcoins that are available.
Right.
Do we see that one working? Is that something that's long term?
I don't see that one surviving. Now, the coin itself, the blockchain, I feel like it'll be similar technology, but the Bitcoin itself, I don't see lasting.
Mm-hmm. And then fair enough. And then there are programs that are platforms like XRP and XLM. Do we see those things being of value?
I will just say I'm not a financial advisor, but I did buy those.
Okay. So you're seeing that, you're getting that. And you know, I love this because all of us invest. And listen, I come from a business background, as well as a classical music background and a business background. I've got an MBA, so sorry about that. So I do understand that part of it, but I also feel that having come from that background, intuition and connection and with spirit is equally, if not more important than any of the quantitative analysis I can do. Because, you know, I can take data and I can make myself believe anything. But the spiritual level, and which is what I think really people are going back to, is really critical about this money. And I do see that those platforms are really valuable. And I think there are a couple of people out in the market who are really good at analyzing the crypto underlying foundation plus adding that spiritual woo level above that. So I highly recommend that assessment. A guy, J-Snip4, he's great. Woo woo dude. I mean, you gotta love a name, woo woo dude. I called him Mr. Dude once, and he's like, yeah, I love it, Mr. Dude. But these guys have focused in, have looked at that, and they only look at it from a spiritual perspective, because money is an energy.
It is
a divine energy. So which is exciting. So you've got distributed ledger concepts. You've got other programs like a Theta, which has a foundation. Like, instead of using a metal as a foundation, it has a program of distributing bandwidth and sharing bandwidth. So I don't know if that's
that will make it either.
Yeah. So let's talk about bandwidth and connectivity as we go through that.
Sure.
Quantum financial system satellites and all of that. How is that going to work in the future? Because this is really what a lot of money is being spent on, that we've shipped that off to.
So I have been getting that the satellites are kind of not really real. So there are satellites, there's a few, but that's not really how the system's going to work. I get it's going to go through the cell towers. So I think there are towers that have been upgraded. I think that 5 and then G are done. And everything has been transmuted in those towers. And I know that never really launched, because when you go to a city, it says 5 and then E. And that's for long-term evolution. And I know this because I used to run a cell phone store a long time ago, right?
Okay.
But
I love
it feels like a long time ago. So that's not true 5G.
Right.
And people are not, there's a lot of like fear around that. And I don't think it's founded anymore. So that's been switched out. And I feel like everything will probably run through those. And there's other technology too that we don't even know about. So I don't get that the satellites are going to be a big thing, because our sky is going to be changing too. And that's a whole nother massive subject.
Right. I mean, we could, you're right. That's a big sort of,
yeah,
we'll exit down that ramp. Maybe we'll have another conversation about that, but you're absolutely right. So satellites really don't exist, because in a way, if you think,
well, there's a few, but I don't feel like it's anything close to what they say.
Interesting. And there are multitude of towers that allow for this connectivity.
Yeah. They're all there.
Are we going to have global connectivity?
Yes.
For the future. Okay. And how important is that for us?
It's really important. And I think that people need that. And also and this kind of is off the subject, but I've been getting that instead of like all this internet shopping and everything, eventually what we're going to be doing is we'll travel to the place that makes the most amazing skincare or whatever, and we will buy enough to last us for a year, and then we will go home. So shipping will not really, after a while, this isn't right away, but shipping won't really be a big thing in the future, because we're just going to go and have our bags of stuff, and come home. And
that's exciting. I love that. I love that idea. Well, actually, then you make me ask another question, which was manufacturing. How does that happen in the near-term transition?
Yeah, I feel like the corporations that really need to stay for humanity for a while will. They will stay up. But the ones that are not needed, they will not be there. They'll go quite quickly. And I don't know. I feel like the communication will stay for quite a long time until they have new tech that's distributed out to everybody. And shipping and trains that are, the over the land trains will get more and more used, because they kind of went out of favor. But honestly, like, that's a much more cost-effective way to be transporting stuff. And then you don't have people out in the middle of, like, they never go home. All they do is like truck drive around for an entire month, and they never see their family. So,
and it's also very dangerous for them too to drive these trucks.
So I think that'll be a big transition, all of that stuff happening. And none of the really super awesome stuff is going to be immediate. But I do think that travel will open up pretty quickly for those trains that are underground, because they're there.
Yeah, that's so exciting. So like for people have clothing, for example, do you see manufacturing at their local levels, US, Europe, those things? Or do you feel that it's going to be like, it's going to still stay a lot in Europe and people are going to travel to Europe to get it? What do you see?
I think it will be more local. I think clothing is one thing that I've always gotten will take like a year or two to kind of switch over. So it's not a good idea to just give away your clothing right away, right now. It's a good idea to keep some of your clothing, have a couple years worth of clothing right now. So I'm going to pause for just one. Okay, so clothing, I feel like manufacture will be closed for, like, paused for a couple of years.
Wow.
And I've been getting that for a while, because most of our clothing comes from China. They're not going to want to do that anymore. So clothing's going to become handmade or small manufacturing, beautiful, tailored, good fabrics. So there'll be a transition with the clothes.
Good. Well, that's interesting. It's like the single source supply chain, which was China, is really the major disruptor of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
A big point, though, would be very interesting. Maybe someone wants to buy up a lot of children's shoes in varying sizes, because adults will stay, we'll be fine.
Yeah,
Children, they grow, and that's a good thing. They have
it
to.
is. Yeah.
That's
Well, and I'm sure there'll be programs where people kind of, you know,
share. Yeah.
share, choose, and there'll be enough. But yeah, I mean, if you have a growing child, it might be good to get one in each size.
Yeah. This is
Yeah.
the kind of stuff to like to think about to prepare, not the
Mhm.
apocalypse. It's like, this is good news. We buy a couple of pairs of shoes, like the next couple of sizes,
Yeah.
which is interesting. Yeah. So the manufacturing thing is interesting because it sounds like we're just moving away from the current supply chain, which I think is extremely positive news.
Yeah. It's really good. And I feel like clothing will be the most affected, really, because a
Yeah.
lot of other stuff is not as big of a deal. Like we can always get food because everybody can grow food if they need to. Even on a
Yeah.
balcony, you can grow some food. But the clothing is a process that's kind of massive.
Yeah.
So,
And it's a lot of tech. It's
yeah.
interesting. I was in Copenhagen over the summer and I was really surprised. I passed by a store that had yarn. The beautiful colors, beautiful color palette of Europe. It just drew me in and I went inside. And this store was completely filled with people. They were knitting and crocheting their own sweaters. I thought,
Yeah.
well, that's quite prophetic, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
like
Yeah, that's
small.
going to be a big thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we're going to have a more temperate climate too. I get it'll take a few years for it to equalize, like a couple of years
Yeah.
without the weather
Manipulation.
manipulation. Um, I try to be
Oh,
careful
what are you
what
saying,
I say.
honey?
Yeah.
Manipulated?
But we're going to have a more temperate climate. So it's going to be a lot different. Like we're not going to need extremely insulated clothes, but sweaters are still going to be a thing because it'll be colder in the
Yeah.
morning and
Yeah.
we're going to want that. Mm-hmm.
But I just think that was like, I think that the consciousness actually knows certain things
Yeah.
before we can articulate. And I thought that was such a beautiful representation because the first I was like, that is very interesting, not the way the world was before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
So
is.
let's take it in a slightly different direction here. A couple things like a little bit of intel about what's going on specifically in the world today. A couple questions before we
Sure.
end. All right. So some big news coming out of the UK that
Mm-hmm.
of course is not being put into the mainstream. The first one is that there was a letter from the UK Parliament to the unelected Prime Minister of the UK saying we request to dissolve Parliament because it does not represent the people. Is that accurate? And what does
I
that
get
mean?
yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
And to further that off, in the UK, the Ministry of Health said that COVID did not exist and all the elements of it were criminal behavior. Do you get that?
Yeah, I do. I do get that. So,
Okay, so that's the UK. We'll do the UK and then we'll go to
and the
Brazil.
UK is a little ahead, and they have been for a
Mm-hmm.
while. Yeah.
And what does that mean? Are they going to be leading globally?
No, I don't feel like they'll be leading, but some of the stuff comes out a little faster over there for some
Mm-hmm.
reason. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's I don't know why that is. That's really interesting.
Mm.
I think it's a smaller country for one thing, and also they want them to lead the way in some way because they have been suppressing for so long. That's what I'm
Mm.
getting. It's because they've been the suppressors
Yeah,
of the
that's
world because
right.
they own almost the whole planet or almost the whole area that we know about anyway.
That's another topic for another day.
Yeah.
So these things in the UK are true, which are major, major disclosures.
Yeah.
Um, do you feel like those will be picked up by mainstream media?
I don't feel like they will until after something else happens in some of these other countries. So I think some big disclosure will happen in like the US or Australia or Canada or whatever, and then they'll say, and look at what's going on in the UK as well.
Mm-hmm. Got
So
it.
I think it's kind of going to be put on the back burner for a week or two, maybe, depending
Okay,
on
so
what
they're
the White
sort of
House do.
supporting that.
Yeah.
Brazil, reports are military is going in. Is
Yeah.
that accurate?
Yes.
And what does that mean?
I think it's prep. So I do get that everything will happen at once. So they're kind of getting in place. They're going to be kind of a precursor. And I think they've been pushed that way a little faster than they necessarily wanted to be by the people.
So
That's
that
what
was a
I'm getting.
surprise to the White Hats about how angry the Brazilians are.
Oh, yeah, they're ticked. They've had it and they're not backing down. So, and that's
That
what
is
being
exciting.
sovereign is.
Yeah, I think that's like when we started the conversation about how we can help the White Hats. I feel like that's truly empowerment. That's very exciting.
Yeah, it is.
US, what do we see happening right now? We've got Carrie Lake having a fight of her life trying to get back into the governor position, which has been some issues there. We have reports of many of not certifying elections in at least three counties within Arizona, multiple counties within Pennsylvania. What do we see happening here in the US?
It's all going to explode at once, I feel like. And it will go back, and I won't say election, I won't say that again.
Mm.
But it will all go back to the 2020 event, the competition of November of 2020.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
everything is sort of going
It'll
back there.
all filter back to it. Yep.
Mm. What role does China play in all of this?
I feel like right now what they're doing is they're showing how heinous it is to have that kind of government and how people are being forced to do things. I don't actually think it's as bad as what they're showing.
Mm-hmm.
I've been getting that's been like pumped up. So yeah, I don't feel like it's quite as bad. I feel like they're actually maybe even a little ahead of us as far as, because they keep everything so hidden. I think they
Right.
might be a little further ahead than we know.
Okay.
So, because I think that their leader has been, in league with the good guys for a while.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that too. And then the last country, I think we're covering a large swath, but not everything. I apologize. We'll do more later.
Yeah.
Iran, with all of the protesting and right now taking protesters and saying, is that true that they're going to go and kill protesters, or is that part of the show?
I think most of it's part of the show. I don't think some of it did happen for sure. But most of it is part of the show. And I think this is the prequel to their big flip.
And they need to do that.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. That's exciting. That's very, very exciting. Because that has been a huge hotbed of repression.
It's been a horrible what to look
Yeah.
at. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. So there's been honey, it's been so wonderful to speak, but it's like there's been so much that I feel like that has happened since we've met in Morocco, and it's been a few days.
And like in a week and a half, like tons of stuff.
Right. So if we keep on going at this rate, it sounds like we're gonna have finally disclosure. It's exciting.
Yeah, it's really exciting. Everybody's so ready, and I know there are people that are just literally chomping at the bit, and just try and notice all the good things and be grateful for them, and try to be a little patient because they are going now. Things are happening now. Things are rolling.
So we've heard a couple of sources that said that the storm is upon us. Is that accurate? Is the storm upon us?
Yes. It's going to get bigger though. We're not in the cyclone yet. Like it's like on the edge. So if you think about a tornado, we're on the edge of the tornado right now.
Oh, Okay.
Yeah,
Well, that's
it's
good.
going to get worse
Okay. So that's the exciting
or
thing. So I think,
better. I like
yeah, it's like
better.
the worse, the better, the kind of thing. That's great. Well,
Yeah.
wonderful. Is there anything else that you wanted to touch on that I didn't ask you?
No, I just think, look forward to the future and take care of yourself right now.
Yeah, that's
Live
so
in the moment,
important.
try and enjoy the moment as much as possible, and don't always live in the future, but know that it's coming and it's going to be better.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
wonderful thing. I think that positive energy is wonderful. Well, I think that's a great way to start. And thank you so much. It's been such a
Thank
great
you.
pleasure to
Yeah,
speak
this
with
has
you.
been
I see
great.
you.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it.
definitely. Bye, everybody.
All right. Ciao. Grazie.